Hey YouTube, Wes here. Hope you guys are doing great. In today's video, we're going to jump into the Omicron crypto news, like why this thing has grown by 600+%, why it's blown up, and is it actually related to the Omicron COVID variant? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about all of this. We're going to talk about what Omicron actually is, which is kind of important, and we're going to talk about the relationships or lack thereof and what you should do about it. So all of this and a whole bunch more coming right up. Hey friends, Wes Spencer here. Thank you guys so much for joining. In this channel, there's no moon pumping. We just dive into crypto news. We dive into innovative cryptocurrencies that interest me and also things that I love like cybersecurity, startups, building your own wealth and independence, all of that kind of stuff. So welcome to the channel if this is your first time here. And there's a good chance that it may be your first time just because the Google algorithm has sent you my way. So a few things, definitely check out the channel, hit like, hit subscribe, share this with a friend, check out all the awesome merch we have coming out. A bunch of you guys have started ordering some of it, which is really cool. And also know that there is memberships if you're interested in any of those things. Okay, so without delay, let's just jump right into the news that's going on right now. So if you've seen anything around this Omicron crypto, it's really blown up over like just the past day. And there's a lot of questions and curiosity of like, wait a second, how, like, I guess it was a crypto that was created directly off the heels of all of the news abuzz with the Omicron COVID variant. That's sort of like what a lot of people are saying. And the truth is, not true at all. Actually, Omicron as a project was fortuitous in its creation in that it was created very close to Omicron COVID variant being announced and all the news around it, but their two are not related. I'm going to show all of this. So let's just jump in and take a look at the Omicron market for a minute. And let's take a look at what's happening around us. So it's right at $196. It's down 25% at the time of this video. So you may be like, whoa, what a terrible project. Why is Wes even covering this? Why is the news even diving into this? Well, it's down 25% over the last day. But if we take a look at what's happened recently with this guy and zoom out, let's take a long look and see what's happened here. So if we go to like all time, which actually isn't going to stretch out all that recently, it really hit the price markets, at least in CoinMarketCap and tracking, way back on November 8th. So just a few weeks ago. So it's a relatively new project. And it traded downward and downward and downward, but mostly lateral all this time. At, look at this, about $64. And there's a reason why it trends around that $64 line. I'll jump into that towards the end of the video. But notice what happened right here. If we zoom in and we take a look at what's happened even over the past 7 days, take a look at this. I mean, it immediately spiked on the 27th, all the way up to highs as high as yesterday on the 28th, as high as $711. So huge trends in all of this. And of course, it's gone up and down. There was a complete sell-off right here. Look at this, from 602 down to about $161. Probably a few people that put some crypto in early in this crypto token, and it just blew up, and then they sold it. So you can see a lot of trending ups and downs here, but we can also see it really blew up in value. And so I want to talk about all this. I want to like share what's really happening behind the scenes. So you heard me say just a minute ago, they're not related, and I'm going to prove that they're not related in just a second. But I also want to dive into a little bit more of like what's happening with COVID and how the naming variants work, and how, in my mind, this is just a fortuitous collision between the two, not even projects, right? A COVID variant, which is a big deal, and then of course a crypto project that happens to bear the same name. So let's dive into this a little bit more and take some info we can learn. So first of all, if you didn't know, WHO is the World Health Organization. They're responsible for naming the variants of SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. And so they use a Greek naming system. And you already know this. You heard Delta was all in the news recently, a few months ago, as something that was really taking off. And of course, in this channel, we're not diving into any of the politics or any of the background around all of this stuff. We're just sticking to facts, right? And so WHO is responsible for naming with the nomenclature, and you may not know this, right? So here's actually the entire list of lineages as you search through this. We can see a lot of interesting information. So you can see when it first came out, when it was first reported, December 30th of 2019, and we can actually just even see this. Look, I'm going to go to Alpha. So here's the alpha variant when it was first named 2020 on February 7th. And we can go through all of these. And you'll notice like many of these never hit, like here's beta, it never hit the news cycles. And the reason it never hit the news cycles is because it wasn't a significant strain that caused, all the news agencies to pick it up because of how transmissible it might be or any of those kinds of things. But let's go all the way down to a couple others. So let's go down to Omicron real quick. And I'm just searching for it. Here's Omicron. And you can see this was released on, look at this, November 11th is when the name was attached, when this variant got its name. And so we can see this was actually a few days after, remember, when Omicron first hit the market, at least the price markets was 11. Oops, let me go back to all time so we can see the beginnings. Here we go, 11.8. So Omicron OMIC, the crypto project, was created before the naming convention even started. And a lot of people are saying things like, yeah, but they knew it was coming because, there's Omicron obviously is going to be in like the next name. It's like how we name hurricanes and storms off like names after each letter of the alphabet. We knew Omicron was coming next. Well, that's true, but nobody really knew that Omicron was going to be so transmissible in such a big news article or like a big buzz-worthy kind of thing, right? And we know that. You look at, like I just showed you, let me go back to this and show you, there's all these other variants. Let's just pick one. Let's pick Zeta, for example. So here's Zeta. Did you know Zeta came out in 2020 on April 13th? Probably not. It never hit the news because it wasn't a significant variant that caused a lot of news cycles. And so my point is this. With Omicron, we knew it was coming next, but nobody knew, at least I don't think, that it was going to be such a big deal. So I think the names are just fortuitous in their collisions with each other. It's not like the creators knew, oh, Omicron's coming in 3 days, they're going to name it, it's going to be all the buzz. And we can even see this. Take a look at this. Let me even show you some news searches I did around this time. So I picked November 8th to November 20th. So intentionally picking up before like that week of the 27th of big news articles coming out around Omicron. And take a look. There's so little information. Google is even making some mistakes. It's going in like 6 hours ago, showing this one 14 hours ago. And I'm like, well, wait, no, I'm not searching 14 hours ago. Today, the day of this video is 11:29, and I'm searching before this. So when you get past all of that, look, down here, there's very little. So there's some mention here of Omicron spreading, but there's none of like the big articles that were coming out saying like, whoa, this is going to be a big deal, like you saw on the week of the 27th. And so why am I showing all this? I'm just showing if you remove the dates here and you just clear this and we just search COVID Omicron, now notice like it's a bit like all the news articles are different. There's like live updates from CNN and New York Times. There's spread information where it's coming from. I mean, it's totally different. So we know the news has blown this up very recently over the past couple of days, but the project itself was started, as I showed, way before the news cycles picked up on this. So that kind of tells me, they're definitely not related. And there's other ways that we can see the two are not related as well. Take a look at this. Let's dive into their Twitter page. So take a look here. So inside of their Twitter page, if we scroll right here, this is like, their pinned tweet that they have right now that happened 16 hours ago, and they're sharing out the Forbes article of their project, all of a sudden rocket shipping, right? But if we go back beyond that, and we see a lot of their tweets, like November 5th is like the last one you saw. Obviously huge APY here, but no mention of the Omicron COVID variant at all. None. And we can continue to look through and see as we go down below all this, they're just sticking to the project. And so there's literally no relationship or tie-in in history digging back on Twitter either that shows them like intentionally connecting with these. And so if I'm on the founder team for Omicron, which of course I'm not, I would this is fortuitous, right? Take it for what it's worth. Take the growth and the attention and this price spiking simply because people see the two together and they decided to go all in on it. It's not unlike a lot of other stuff inside crypto, right? It's the same reason people often call crypto like bubbles. Looking at Shiba Inu, looking at Doge before, of like, why are these projects blowing up in price? They're blowing up because the market wants them to. Like, that's the end of the story. There's a lot of buzz behind them, and that causes the growth. Is that a bubble? Maybe, maybe not. But I've learned in this world, sometimes projects that don't take themselves all that seriously still really, really grow. Welcome to crypto. If you're not okay with that, then you're probably not going to be okay with crypto as a whole. It is what it is. So that brings up some questions. What the heck is Omicron in the first place? Like, what is this thing? Why, what is it actually doing? So I'm not going to do a deep dive into this, but I do just want to expose it to you just a little bit here. So here's Omicron. This is their DAO page where, that's where everything is. That's where the centralization of the authority and the governance is for all of it. You can actually dive into documentation around it. I'm going to show you how to buy it in just a second. But as we take a look at the app itself, if you just click on the app, it takes you right here. Notice the APY is like rocking high, right? And I think, again, some of that is residual because of the fact that it's tied into its meteoric growth right now. But, a fair amount deposited, and maybe not a ton, but a fair amount. If you want to connect this, you'd hit Connect Wallet, and then you're going to connect MetaMask or Wallet Connect, and off you go, right? That's how the whole thing works. So there you have. One of the things they talk about, though, is that it's built on Arbitrum. Or Arbitrum. I can never say that right. So here's Arbitrum. This is an Ethereum project, and it basically allows you to create smart contracts that they claim that are more scalable, more private, more secure. It's just a platform for building smart contracts and thereby tokens and all the other DeFi kinds of things you might want to do inside of Ethereum. And there's a lot of Arbitrum projects that are out there. It just so happens that Omicron uses Arbitrum. The other thing I wanted to share about all of this as well is here's their documentation if you want to kind of see how it works. And notice it'll say some things here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for us. They say that it's a decentralized reserve currency, so it's not a stable coin. What they mean by that is the reserve currency is it's being backed by some amount of assets. And they even show this, right? Each token itself is backed by some assets, and it gives it an intrinsic value that it can't fall below. So that's kind of the whole idea of how it works. So it's got a price floor. And if we go back and we look at the price for all of this, even if you take out the huge gains, notice that it never went below what that floor was. Remember I said at the very beginning of the video I was going to share a little bit more. So it looks like that floor is somewhere in the high $60 is what the actual floor of that price is. And so you can see, it's a policy controlled currency system. So instead of like the market can determine its growth, but the market also can't determine like it going below the floor of what its policy reserves keep for it. So that's the idea behind it. It's built for staking, for bonding, for liquidity pool, all that kind of stuff. So that's what the whole thing is. It's actually a fork of the Olympus project, if you want to take a look at it. So here's the Olympus project itself. Decentralized reserve currency, very, very similar. They just took this, and when we say fork, what we really mean by that is they took that code base and made it their own. They sort of like said everything that this was like, it's open source, so everything they built, we're going to take it, we're going to fork it, we're going to create our own version of it, and off we go. So it's based on another project, but it may develop on its own off of that. It's sort of an offshoot, so to speak. Now, if you're interested in buying it, here it is on SushiSwap. The only place I know of that you can buy it that they show is SushiSwap. So you'd have to connect your wallet to SushiSwap. Usually it's going to be an Ethereum purchase to get it, but it could be something else as well. But SushiSwap, I can't say that. Let's try that again. SushiSwap is how you actually buy it. Oops, I wasn't sharing my screen. So here is the screen share where you can actually buy it if you're interested in doing that. And the last thing that I want to kind of like just pause and share a little bit is I'm not buying it. Right? Like, I understand that this is something that could potentially blow up again. But in my view on this, I tend to stay away from a lot of projects that like literally have no, like, I don't want to say no value on the Omicron project itself, but its value growth of like 600+% has been driven, let's be honest, the tie-in with the news. So what happens when it falls out of the news cycle? When is that going to happen? We already saw it go, and let's take a peek at this again, just so you can see how I see it with my lens. You take a look at the past 7 days, notice it's even like the past 1 day. Look at this, ups and downs like crazy. Is this a market you want to jump into right now? I feel like, look at this, a lot of the hype cycle that was at the top has already gone down. Now, could it spike back up again? Yeah, maybe, but it's pretty risky. So if you want to buy it, I showed you where you can get it. It's on Sushi. It's not for me. It's definitely not something I want to get into, but I wanted to just share the background and kind of expose a little bit more about what's happening. They're not related with each other. There's no intentionality in my view that they're related to each other. There's no evidence that they're related with each other, but it does show the market oftentimes speaks in very interesting ways the way that it wants to do it. And this is one of those where the news blew up. Now, by the way, one last thing for you. I saw in a news article, guess what comes after Omicron in the Greek alphabet? If you don't know, it's pi. And so what happens when the next variant gets named, and maybe it happens to be as big or bigger of a news cycle than Omicron? Well, now we have pi, and we already know there is a pi crypto. I cover it a ton on this channel. Could it do something to the pi market? I don't really think so, because there's no Pi that's on the market right now. You're still just reserving it through those daily check-ins, those 24-hour check-ins, what some people call mining. But if Pi were on the market and Pi were like actually out today, it could potentially do something crazy. But it's not, and it's not probably not going to be on the market until mainnet before that happens. I just thought I'd throw that out there as an interesting, again, collision of names, with Pi being the next variant, and the Pi crypto project is one that I cover quite a bit on this channel. So maybe you'll see a lot of new users spin into that, or it may just be like all the others, like Zeta and Eta and all those other COVID variants that never picked up the news because they weren't newsworthy and no one even knew they existed, unlike Omicron. So there you have it. There's the data, there's the details, there's the background behind all of it. I hope this is helpful. If it is, share it with a friend. Give me some comments down below. Definitely hit like and subscribe. Those do go a really long way for this channel. Alright guys, thank you so much.